Good morning, good evening, and good day. You're listening to Dramabuds, an anime podcast. So hello everyone, welcome to today's episode of Dramabuds. Today I'm doing my, usual first quarter recap for January to March, and it hasn't been good, guys. It hasn't been good. It was pretty bad last year. I haven't checked my numbers from then, but yeah, I remember going through somewhat of a slump back then. But it is worse now because I look at all the ongoing shows and I think, I don't want to check a single one of these out except for one. But more on that later. So yeah, let's get into the numbers. For the first quarter of 2023, I've only watched 5 K-dramas. Of all the ongoing shows that finished throughout the first 3 months, I've only finished 3. And my all-time total of all the K-dramas I've watched is 121 K-dramas. Let's get into, my quick thoughts on everything I've watched and dropped so far in the first 3 months of the year.
Dream high.
So just to quickly mention the dramas I've already reviewed. Under the Queen's Umbrella finished airing last year, but I delayed my review because I wanted to give it time and also couldn't squeeze it into the episodes I had planned out for December. But yeah, go listen to that. I love that. It was a very loving review because I really love that show. Island, on the other hand, that was not a loving review because I did not love it. But, I love the actors. They all tried their best. Everyone tried their best. Go listen to that if you're open to a lot of criticism. Okay, so I've only finished one completed drama, like an old drama, a 2011 drama, guys. It's Dream High. Can you believe it? Writer Park Hae-ryun, it's you and me again. Here we are again. I've had a long and storied history with her, but she is actually the writer who I've watched the most works of. I've watched, Dream High, I Hear Your Voice, Pinocchio, While You Were Sleeping, and Startup. I'm definitely gonna watch her next drama, Diva of the Deserted Island, with Park Eun-bin and Choi Jong-yeop. Come on. Of course I have to try it for them, but and to be honest, I am getting a little bit of faith in her. Like, I'm genuinely excited. I'm hopeful. I'm not completely dreading it this time. Because, after watching 5 of her dramas, technically 4, because I dropped Startup, I made it through half of that, I guess. I have to admit, they're all watchable. There are some dramas, some writers whose dramas I can't even get through, but for the most part, they're all watchable, not exceptional, and some are definitely better than others. But I have to say, she's gotten worse as the years have passed. Maybe, more polished, right? Less touchy, less problematic maybe. But she's also diminished the good and has reached like an average, a mediocre level that you weren't like this. You could be better than this. The highs and lows. I'll take the highs and lows over just mediocrity. Anyway, I've always been afraid of watching older K-dramas. Everyone's definitions of older are different. But to me, anything before 2014 maybe. I've watched a few 2014 dramas. But yeah, anything before that, it was a different time. And so there are those quote-unquote problematic aspects that were normalized back then. And there's also the production value. Like, it just is a reality of life that things look better, or we have different production standards, visual standards now than what was present back then. So I would like to say that I am not influenced by those things, that I only care about the story and the writing and the acting. But the story and the writing and the acting are affected by production standards and the norms of the time. So it's natural that it's hard to get into things from back then, at least in my opinion. But I gave it a chance and I practiced radical acceptance. Just accept that it looks low budget. even for something from 2011, like even with those standards, I already had low standards, it looked even worse than what I thought it would look. Yeah, just accept that they put IU, like the IU, in a fat suit. Yeah, and that's her character, right? She's made fun of and thrown out of her class for not losing weight fast enough. And yeah, someone said that she is very, very talented, but she'll never debut unless she loses 30 pounds. It's harsh, but it's not an inaccurate description or depiction of the Korean entertainment industry, even back then and until now. It's true. They are like that. And yeah, they do show that she goes through a crash diet and has like terrible cravings because she lost her weight too fast. And, now she looks like regular IU. And by losing weight, she did manage to become more successful and has all these opportunities. Once again, not inaccurate. It is what it is. And at the end, of course, her whole arc is that she's always been loved and supported and believed in even before she lost all the weight. So, those stories. We've seen those stories. It's a product of its time. Fine, I'll accept it. Sorry, I know there are a lot of other touchy aspects, but to me personally, the fat phobia part is the touchiest personally. But it is what it is. Anyway, in terms of the actual writing though, it holds up. I can't believe I'm saying that. The pacing of the show is insane. Almost on the level of Hot Stove League, which is, for me, one of the greatest compliments you can give any show, honestly. There are barely any side plots or characters that, don't tie into the main story and the main characters. They overcome one hurdle and then there's more drama and then another hurdle comes up for them to face. The quote-unquote villains are the school admin who see them as maybe collateral in their power struggles. Or, they have this conviction that they're right, that the way they run their school is right and they don't want to change it. Or sometimes it's because they genuinely don't think these kids are talented enough to succeed in the industry. Because if you didn't even pass the audition to get into this school, if you're not even good enough to pass our standards, how could you pass the rest of the industry standards? They're even harsher than us. So they would rather these kids just give up early instead of, forcing themselves to survive in a very unforgiving industry. So yeah, I love anything that involves people singing and dancing, obviously. And then just the pacing of the show is insane, so engaging, so fun. I forgot how many days it took me to finish this, but definitely just about a week. I binged a lot of these episodes in one day, which is pretty rare for me nowadays. In the Parkerion cinematic universe, this is the most similar to Startup. I'd say there are no villains, right? The way they're really like actual murderers in I Hear Your Voice and While You Were Sleeping. No murderers, no evil big bad. Only circumstances and challenges, genuine challenges. The second male lead has a stronger childhood connection with a female lead than the actual first male lead. The main lead follows the female lead into the plot because he falls in love at first sight and it's somehow connected to his dream, like she becomes his dream. You know what I have to say about that. And also the dynamics between the female lead and the second female lead. They're kind of former friends, or in Startup they were sisters, but then they became rivals. But okay. Despite that, what I like about Dream High is that it pushes the plot and the characters to more extreme levels. So I feel like there were more stakes here, especially for the female lead. Goyemi is a terrible person. I mean, she's genuinely a terrible person. I mean, she's a teenager. I give her a lot of slack. I cut her a lot of slack because she's a teenager. But she's overly proud and condescending and manipulative and insensitive. And she only cares about herself. Like, genuinely a terrible child. But what I do like about her is that she's not, spunky and overconfident that I can solve all my problems. No, she just overcomes her challenges and doesn't rely on others to solve them. She maintains some of her terrible attitude. Yeah, it is what it is. But she slowly learns to be more compassionate to others. And then the plot still beats her to the ground and humbles her because she deserves that. And yet I'm still rooting for her to make it through all of this. Like, I don't mind that you are a pretty terrible person. You are a teenager. You will learn. And she is genuinely learning throughout the course of the show. I know others disagree about that, but I do. I see that. I was rooting for all of them. And in a show where sometimes they're working with each other and at some point they're against each other, it's tough to balance that. I also really loved the second female lead, Yoon Becky. She's so insecure because she was always in Hemi's shadow in their previous school. But then when they went to Kirin whatever school, suddenly it was Becky who was on top and Go Yemi was the one suffering. She is misguided. She's misguided and she's desperate and she does borderline criminal things out of desperation to succeed, which I shouldn't root for that. And I didn't root for it necessarily, but they did a good job in like showing you how desperate and insecure this girl is. But, I cannot hate her because I kind of pity her more than anything. I saw some people saying that they couldn't like or accept Go Yemi because of how bratty she was, which is absolutely true. But then, how come you can extend that sympathy to Becky, who literally went out and tried to injure, or actually, no, she successfully injured others to advance her own goals? We're drawing the line at brattiness, but, putting thumbtacks in someone's socks or in someone's shoes to injure them so that they couldn't do a dance solo, that's acceptable. Huh? I can forgive a lot of things. I think I'll forgive both at this point. Sorry. I think I have more sympathy to both of these girls, all of the characters, genuinely, because they're teenagers. They're teenagers, they're very misguided and very desperate. I can personally extend that kind of sympathy to fictional teenagers. Meanwhile, in Startup, sorry to bring it up, but they are full adults. And that story really had no stakes for me. The immersion was ruined by all the PPL that they had to put in because Suzy and Nam Joo-hyuk brought in too many sponsors, which is a true fact. Okay, like, you're gonna turn down the money. You're gonna turn down the money for production just because, supposedly Dalmi was poor, but she was wearing Dior every day. Come on. Yeah, the PPL ruined the immersion, so I couldn't believe that she was actually poor and that she needed this opportunity. You get it? But Dream High, they genuinely looked poor. This was so low budget. Even in the indoor scenes, whenever they were speaking, there was like a cloud of air coming out of their mouths because it was so cold and they were filming in winter. I don't know why that show looked like that. Anyway, usually we can overlook these things and just laugh at it like, haha, she's poor, but she has a Samsung S whatever the newest phone is. But my patience and my tolerance, very low for this writer. So I couldn't overlook it in the case of Startup. Anyway, moving on, sorry. Regarding the ending of the show, I didn't like it. Okay, so a spoiler, I guess. Everyone knows that Suzy, quote-unquote, ended up with Kim Soo-hyun's character and not Taekyeon. And that's why Taekyeon is immortalized as some kind of second lead icon. But honestly, I wasn't rooting for either male lead for most of the show. But I tried to keep my mind open, so that when I was watching things as they happened, I would understand why she chose Samdong instead of just getting mad. Because I really don't like falling for second lead whatevers. And, I saw that Jin-gook already had the childhood connection and he kept seeing Hemi at her worst and comforting her and protecting her. Jin-gook is Taekyeon's character. And in turn, Hemi first began to soften and show more emotion to him because she was pretty emotionless aside from being angry. But when she was at her lowest and she was starting to rebuild herself with actual hard work and not just overconfidence with how good she used to be, it was Samdong who was there with her. And then with Samdong, Hemi showed how far she could go for someone else, which is a complete 180 from her self-centered, bratty teenage self, how she always was. And then they gave it an open ending. But I don't think this was the show that needed that warranted that. Like, I'm okay with an open ending if it fits, but really, everyone else had a fairy tale happy ending and not them? Everyone achieved their dream somehow, but it just didn't make sense to not show the aspect of them getting together if your literal final scene was of them kissing through a bus or in a bus. I don't know. Then again, the romance was one of the least interesting aspects of the show. Even the romance between their teachers was more interesting for me. So, it's fine, I guess. Anyway, This is so long. My Park Hye-ryun reflection is that she's gotten a lot tamer and a lot safer over time, especially because her formula was more and more polished with each work, and the production just got better. Like, I won't deny, Startup looks amazing. Like, the best part of that show is really the directing, the cinematography, the music, everything about that. But yeah, the writing itself just got worse and worse each time. So she needs to bring back female leads that are actually pretty terrible and get humbled over time. Because I Hear Your Voice and Dream High, they got it. They got those female leads. And I really hope her next work with Park Eun-bin makes her take a lot more risks with her stories and her characters. She can do it. She can do it. She just doesn't anymore.
Every time 너를 만난 순간부터 변해가 모든 게 웃게 된 내일은 아주 오랜 시간 동안 기다렸던 사람 그대란 걸 알아 사랑인 걸.
So now that I recorded what felt like an entire episode, possibly an entire episode just dedicated to Dream High, okay, let's talk about the other shows that I finished, the ongoing shows that completed this year that I finished. We have Recipe for Farewell. Oh my gosh. As I said before in my Q4 recap, my Q4 recap from the end of last year, this is exactly as advertised. It's about a man who learns to cook for his almost ex-wife, his wife that he's been separated from for a while now, as she was diagnosed with terminal bowel cancer. And it's about family, about acts of service, about healing, not only of the body, but also of relationships. Ultimately, it's about not taking time for granted, even if you know how everything ends. Because we all know how life ends, yeah. We just don't know when and how. But do we have to wait for a situation where we know when and how for us to decide that, we should be kind to each other. We should forgive each other and enjoy our time together because it is very, very limited. And surprisingly, Recipe for Farewell is not as melodramatic and sad as you may think. It's very heavy, yeah, but it feels more like it is holding your hand through their story. They're holding your hand as they tell you their story, which is, it feels like it's from the POV of someone who's already at the acceptance stage of grief, right? And instead of throwing scene after scene of them crying and wailing about how unfair life and death are and showing all this suffering, I felt like there were more scenes of them eating together and laughing and smiling compared to, scenes of them crying, because this really is a situation to cry about. But speaking of crying, congratulations to this show for making me cry in 9 out of 12 episodes. 9 out of 12 30-minute episodes. Congratulations. Okay, moving on, we have Payback. Payback, Money and Power, which is on Prime Video. This was a solid but predictable drama. Right? It was predictable, not in the sense that you know exactly what's going to happen, but it follows all the beats that I expected from a story like this. I mean, one betrayal after another, switching sides, and then someone brings out a new trump card or a new secret ledger from somewhere. Yeah, it was fun to watch while it was ongoing because it's well paced. I'll give it that. But it's not exceptional on any fronts or groundbreaking for its genre. The characters, I gotta say, are not very complex. Like, if you listen to my first impressions of this, I said a lot of things about them. I could describe the characters in more than one sentence, yeah. But they're also very predictable and they don't really stray from that description. I gotta pat myself on the back. I think I gave a very good review, very good first impressions, because I pretty much described their character arcs very, very well. So even by episode 6 out of 12, pretty much I had their character arcs predicted, I guess, or described properly. So yeah. Also, Moon Chae-won was kind of wasted here. I wish we had more of her, sadly. And lastly, I finished Love to Hate You. I think this took me 3 days after it was all released. Now, this is a very divisive show, I know, but this was the older people rom-com I was looking for. It's tropey, a little bit trashy, and I liked it specifically for those reasons, because that's what I was looking for. yeah, it managed to seamlessly combine not like other girls and not all men into one show. Yeah, they did that. And yeah, can K-dramas do better while still making rom-com tropes fun and having great chemistry, which is what we're all looking for. I don't think anyone would say no to fun tropes and great chemistry. Yes, they could do better. But I wasn't looking for anything more than chemistry tropes and no murder. Apparently, I have to mention that. So, I mean, tick those boxes. The moment you apply any sort of critical thinking to this, oh, there are a lot of things that are not savory about this. But if you're watching it for that, it's fun for that. Also, Kim Ok-min, she was wonderful here. I would say that, I could watch her in anything, but then I remember Dark Hole happened. I made it to like episode 9 out of 10 or 12 there. And no, that was absolutely a snooze fest. But, she was wonderful here. She shined the way like Sejong as Shinhari shined in Business Proposal. That level of, wow, it's so refreshing to watch you do whatever it is you're doing. Go girl.
'Cause I know you and I will be alright. When we just get along, it seems so fine. Come on, baby, let us try. I'll hold you. What will you do?
Okay, so here are the dramas I dropped. Well, I tried 5 episodes of The Interest of Love, and I know this has like a cult following. Okay, a lot of people really love this, and a lot of people did not. And I mean, I can't even fully put myself on that other camp because I didn't finish it and I didn't want to. I actively, as of episode 5, did not want the leads to end up together. Like there was no chemistry there. There was heavy lifting, I think is the term. Heavy lifting by the directing, like forcing intimacy with all these close-up shots and slow-mo shots, which is, I mean, it's a mellow, so it is what it is. It's par for the course. But yeah, I felt the heavy lifting and I hated the male lead's character so much. Honestly, I'm blacklisting Yoo Yun-sok. I'm not watching anything Yoo Yun-sok is on from now on. I mean, as much as I can, unless it's absolutely... I cannot miss out on this, but as much as possible, if I can, I never want to watch Yoo Yun-sok ever. Here's the truth. I just realized every time I watch him in an ensemble cast, he is the person I like the least. He's the character and the actor I like the least. Like in Hosplay, honestly, I hate the Jongwon. Didn't like Winter Garden either. In Reply 94, how dare you say that Chilbong should have got it with, what's her name, Najong, instead of Trash Oppa? Excuse me, that's Trash Oppa. He's my number 1 Shin PD boy. In Mr. Sunshine, he was okay. That was the most okay he's been as Gudongme, but honestly, everyone else was absolutely stellar compared to him. So yeah, could have done without him either. Could have been anyone else. He was not the key role in that for me. Did I watch him in anything else? Oh, right, Dr. Romantic. Actively hated Kang Dong-ju. Like, bring back all of the main cast, except for him. Bring back So Yun-jin. Yeah, but don't bring him back for season 3, okay? It has happened too often. And, like, Cosplay was my first, like, ultimate love K-drama. So, of course, I had good reason to like him in anything I watched him in. And yet, I just constantly hated him. So, what was that? I didn't have any reason to hate him. I'm sorry. I have to blacklist the guy. Yeah, sorry. I gotta say it. Anyway, going back to The Interest of Love, I see what they were trying to do with the complex characters who are flawed and don't communicate because, yeah, real people are like that. I get it. But the chemistry needs to be palpable for me to root for that, to root for those characters or this relationship, regardless of them just not being perfect people or easy or unfrustrating characters. But if I hate the actor, it's very hard for me to see chemistry. I mean, genuinely, they could have cast someone else who could have done just as good of a job if apparently he was such a great actor in that role. They could have cast someone else. They would have done great. I like Moon Ga-young here. It's the first time liking Moon Ga-young, honestly, because she didn't do her baby talk voice, which she does in, True Beauty, Find Me in Your Memory. In Link, she wasn't doing it as much, but yeah, none of those. I finished none of those. Anyway, I'm so sorry. Moving on, I dropped Crash Course in Romance. Actually, I mentioned this in my first impressions episode, right? That I was going to drop it, but I kept watching and just skipping the parts that I didn't care about. And then I realized I was right. I was skipping 60% of the episode because 60% of the episode focused on things that I didn't care about, like the moms and the murder and the whatever. I dropped it fully when the tutoring was exposed and things got super angsty. Like, I couldn't deal with it anymore. So I dropped it. And unfortunately, that meant that I didn't even get to see the romance and the chemistry that I was here for. But, whatever. Not for me. It's not for me. And I was watching people watch it on the timeline. And, well, a lot of people were frustrated with it anyway. So, good decision. Good decision to drop it when I did. And lastly, the last show I tried and still dropped was Divorce Attorney Shin. I got through 5 episodes. But honestly, even past the first 2 episodes, I was just keeping it in the background. I was supposed to do a first impressions episode on this, but then I realized I don't even want to give it any more time. Like, I wasn't giving it any attention. Might as well not give it my time. I came into it with very, very, very low expectations because of how much 39 by the same writer was a disappointment. And that was a good approach. But unfortunately, those expectations were met. They were not exceeded. Like, surprisingly, it's better than I thought. No, it was exactly what I thought it would be. Sorry to keep mentioning 39, but this is kind of the male version of that, but only slightly more watchable. I'll say it's more watchable than 39 because of the different divorce cases each week. I like that about legal shows. Honestly, generally, I am okay with legal shows because you get something new every few episodes or so, while the characters and the relationships and the big conflict are developing in the background until they all come together in the last few episodes or in the last big case. Unfortunately, I don't care about it in Divorce Attorney Shin. I don't care about his revenge plot and his dead sister or whatever. I don't. The main trio are forcefully likable. Like, they're making them do goofy things and saying, oh, look at how quirky and funny these ajushis are. And I'm supposed to just laugh along and smile, just out of obligation. But I didn't like them. I don't like them. I don't care about them. I'm not gonna like them out of principle. And you could say, girl, you were a lacking 5, a cosplay, a Shin PD truther at some point. 2/3 of these guys were literally Shin PD graduates. Only Cho Sung-woo has not been inducted into the cult of Shin PD, right? I mean, I like them as actors. I do think they're funny. I don't think it's clicking here. It's not clicking. That's it. That's the only problem. It's just not clicking. I don't know if others are enjoying this, but good for you. But nothing is coming together for me in the show. And so, I mean, it could be because I came into it with such low expectations. It's like I was priming myself not to like it or making myself not like it before it even came out and tried to prove itself to me. But I don't know. I don't know how to not have expectations anymore. It is what it is. It's just not clicking.
Oh, we can make a good thing bad. Oh, we can make a good thing bad.
So my currently watching list is very short because technically I'm only watching Call It Love. I love this drama. I love it so much. It's been a while since I loved anything that as I was watching it and I was feeling these feelings again, I really had to question myself and ask, is this what it feels like to love a drama again? It's been so long. It's been so long since I last loved something I was watching and I was eagerly anticipating the date would come out every week. It's been so long. Is this what it feels like? I think it is. And so I'm gonna gatekeep this for a little bit. I'm gonna keep my thoughts to myself and my feelings to myself a little bit. Just until it's done. Give me space to have this for myself. But just so you know, I love it. And supposedly I'm watching The Glory. I have all the episodes downloaded onto my iPad. And I will be watching it. I will be watching it on my plane ride home, which is about 8 hours. So yeah, I will be finishing that, hopefully, on the plane ride home. Moving on to other media that I'm currently watching. Am I still even watching Boys Planet? I'm not watching any of the drama or the editing or anything. I'm just watching the performances. So if there's no performance that week, I'm not watching anything. Just so you know, my boy Kong is out. I'm sad he didn't even make it to the third round, but it's okay. It's okay. He's infinitely talented and I will see him in the future. I hope. My one pick of the moment is Keita. My current 3 pick, I think, is Jay, Keita, and Wang Zhihao. Yeah. Chen Guanlui has survived, and I just wanted to see him until the third round. Beyond that, I don't know. The Wang Zhihao spot changes every week, I think, or it'll change every time I remember to vote someone else. But so far, yeah, Keita is my one pick. Guys, let's save Keita. He has nowhere to go home to. I've read up on what's happened to Cypher and with Rain Company. It's pretty hopeless down there. So let's vote for Keita, please. Please. He's so small. My tiny short king. My all-rounder short king. I love him so much. What can we do? What can we do? And instead of Boys Planet, I'm all in on Peak Time. Peak Time is so absolutely wholesome. So what happened in the elimination, the first elimination of the show is basically the first 2 rounds of the show were pre-recorded, like several months ago. They recorded all of those performances several months ago. And then for the third round, they gave everyone a new song, choreo, training with choreographers, vocal trainers, everything, give them costumes, and told them to prepare for a performance for the third round. But right before the third round, that's when they had the elimination, so that only 8 or 10 groups would perform in the actual third round. But they did that so that these groups could keep the song, the choreo, the costumes, and then all the training that they've had, and also the pre-promotion by being on Peak Time, so that they have essentially a free comeback. They gave them all 2 months to prepare for a free comeback. So even if you don't get to perform by surviving in the show, you can do whatever you want with the song you were given. Like, genuinely giving these groups a chance to succeed. You know, instead of just using all their effort and their stories for the drama, for the entertainment. No, JTBC genuinely gave them the best shot they have as of this moment, to succeed on their own. Like, so wholesome. Absolutely wholesome. I love the show. The performances are stellar. You gotta watch the second round stuff. Honestly, all the rap stages were really, really, really good for me. I liked pretty much all of them. And in general, just great show. Wholesome survival show TV. We love to see it. Okay, moving on to some of the Western shows I've watched. Just this week, I finished Welcome to Wrexham, this docuseries about Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney buying a football team in Wales. And a football team on the brink of just nothingness, at the lowest tier of the league or something. And just funding them and helping them rise up the ranks slowly. Very entertaining docuseries. I don't know anything about football, so yeah, watching that documentary actively supports the team that they're funding. So good for them. It's a fun watch, very fun watch. Finished it in like 2 days, I think. And okay, more importantly, I finished Daisy Jones and the Six. It's just on Amazon Prime. Welcome to Wrexham is on Disney Plus, by the way. Anyway, Daisy Jones and the Six. I have many thoughts. So, I didn't like the book. I read the book. The pacing of it felt anticlimactic, which is my fault because I expected some sort of plot arc that was, a typical plot arc. But it was more of a character-based, character-driven story, I guess, of them just telling their story as it unfolded. So yeah, kind of my fault, but also it felt anticlimactic. The format of the book, it's an interview format, so they're interviewing the members of the band of Daisy Jones and the Six. And the format leaned too heavily on, it's the unreliable narrator. Because, they could be saying one thing, but what actually happened in real life was different, or they have different recollections of the same event. Yeah, interesting in theory, but in my experience, it kept me from getting too deep into the characters. Speaking of the characters, I loved Billy as a character. I loved Camilla as a character. I loved Billy and Camilla. I loved them together. I didn't understand Daisy. I couldn't grasp her. I couldn't love her as much as I wanted to love her. And because of that, because I was so heavy into Billy and Camilla and Billy, Camilla, I didn't like the How I Met Your Mother-esque ending of, when the mother dies. So all of this to say that you're still in love with Aunt Robin? Kind of like that. All of this to say, go get Daisy, Billy. I hated it. I kind of hated it. I don't remember too much of the details and what they changed from the book, as they adapted it into a TV show. So don't ask me on that. I will be talking about the things that I do remember. So, what did I like in the Daisy Jones and the Six adaptation? Well, I finally loved Daisy. I loved the harder edge that Riley Keough, that's how you say her name. I love the edge that Riley gave to her, right? I also finally understood Daisy Billy. Like, in the book, yeah, I felt it, but I wasn't rooting for it. In the show, I was rooting for it, okay? Their chemistry was so insane, so palpable, like, so right but so wrong. Perfectly captured that. And the interview format of the book made more sense in the TV show. It was more entertaining. Yeah, the zingers and the one-liners and the general supposed humor of it just didn't translate that well in the book. But as a TV show, when you have snappy editing, when you have actors delivering it, it's more fun. I heard those that listen to it in audiobook format enjoyed it more. I think it's one of those books that are better as an audiobook. So yeah, maybe that's one more factor why I didn't like the book as much. But whatever. Another discussion for another day. Anyway, what I did not like about the adaptation was to make it more engaging and less anticlimactic, as I felt, to make it better for TV, essentially. They kind of made it more shallow. It felt a little bit 2000s teen TV, a la Gossip Girl, a la Pretty Little Liars, It just kind of felt like it was on the CW. The character that suffered the most with this shallower writing was Billy. Because I loved him in the book. Not because he was a good, perfect person, but because he's a man who was constantly torn and tempted by his former addictions and by Daisy and by what being with her or what his feelings for her could do to him, But you genuinely felt how he tried to remain on the straight and narrow, tried to remain loyal to Camilla because he actually loved Camilla. He wanted to do good by her because she deserved that. That's what she deserves. But show Billy didn't seem to love show Camilla that deeply. I didn't feel that deep love for her. Could this also be because I didn't like the actress and I didn't like the writing of Camilla in the show? Possibly. I have to admit my biases. I didn't like her. I didn't like her writing. I didn't like her actress's portrayal of it. And in general, I wasn't rooting for Billy Camilla as much as I did in the book. And they didn't have much chemistry, which, as I mentioned, if I don't like one of the actors or both of the actors, it's a little hard to find chemistry. Sorry, I'm biased. To play devil's advocate a little bit, I understand that Camilla in the book was a little too perfect. She was a little too gracious, she was a saint. And making her a little messier, right? She was making her own mistakes and her own wrong actions. Yeah, that was understandable. It makes her more human, I guess. But messy doesn't actually mean complex, right? Doing problematic things doesn't make you complex, and they cut off the actual complexity that these characters had in the book. In here, Billy felt like he was just stringing Daisy along for his own pleasure or because it was good for the band or whatever, but not because he was truly torn between, what he was feeling with Daisy. Like this just recognition of yourself in someone else, that strong twin flames connection, yes. And also his true and his deep love for Camilla, for his family, for the life that he built with her. I just didn't feel that. I mean, Riley and Sam Claflin's chemistry They carried the show. They carried their characters even as individuals, and they carried the Daisy-Billy relationship chemistry together. If they gave Billy the depth that he had in the book, I'm 1,000% sure that Sam Claflin could deliver that. I know he could act that out. He was so good. And maybe I would have loved Billy Camilla like I did in the book. And because of Sam and Riley's chemistry, I would have been happy with the Daisy Billy ending as well. Like, we could have had it all. We could have had it all. But instead, they just made it more shallow. And so, a bit of a missed opportunity. But it is what it is. It's hard for me to review it without the perspective of I read the book and I didn't like the book. It's hard for me to come at it with that perspective. But I don't know, I think it was pretty entertaining and watchable in itself if you didn't know all of that. But yeah, it does lean a little bit 2000s teen TV.
참 많은 꽃들을 피웠었구나 그때의 나 이미 말라버린 맘도 피어나겠지.
And that's it for me today. I didn't expect this episode to get so long because I barely watched anything. But apparently, I only watch things that I have strong opinions about now. So, yay. Yay for me. The only thing I'm really looking forward to now is Dr. Romantic 3. That's coming in April, thank God. And other than that, I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen. But this episode is insanely long, despite what I initially thought it would be. So, yeah, that's it for me today. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you soon. Thanks for tuning in. Feel free to leave a comment, like, subscribe, follow, and tell me what you thought about today's episode. See you soon!